All right, guys, it's that time of week again. Power rankings, week 16. Jaden's going to kick us off.
Alrighty. Number 32, Chicago Blackhawks. It's a new one. Moving down two for
Uh,
me.
yeah, same here.
Don't win a game this week. They face Vancouver, Seattle, Edmonton on a back-to-back, and Calgary. Last two games they didn't even have a goal. 3 out of the 4 games they didn't have a goal. It's yeah, that's just the juggle for the bottom 3 positions for this team, and now they are dead last for me.
Yeah, I had the same call. It's a tough week for them, but yeah, when you're not scoring goals, it's hard not to drop them, especially with the weeks that the other two had. So let's jump into 31, I guess, with those other two. I have the San Jose Sharks.
Alrighty. Yeah, that is my 31.
Yeah, so one of the big reasons why they obviously moved up is they have a pretty reasonable week. They get the shootout win against the Los Angeles Kings 4-3, and then on a back-to-back, which makes it all that more impressive, especially seeing the Rangers weren't on a back-to-back. They beat the Rangers 3-2 in overtime. And then they finished the week off with a loss against the Buffalo Sabres, 2-5, but 4 out of 6 points. And although the Kings and the Rangers are having a bit of a slide at the moment, still two pretty decent sides. So yeah, good week for the Sharks.
Yeah, there's not much more to say than that. Moving on to 30, Anaheim. Like I said, these three teams just tossing and turning for these positions. Start off, they lose to the Rangers. They beat Buffalo. They lose to Dallas in OT, and then they beat the Wild. So honestly, up and down week, all things considered, pretty good. I think they go slightly above 500 because of the OT points against Dallas. So not bad. 5 out of 8 points. In the right direction. Maybe the wrong direction because they're going for, draft picks. But yeah, not too bad.
I mean, it's all you can really ask for from Anaheim. You just want to see some games that are entertaining from them, and see them play some decent hockey, especially from the youth. And they gave you that this week.
Hmm.
All right, 29 for me. I have staying still the Ottawa Senators.
Right, same for me, but they just don't move for me.
Yeah, I look, it's I think I said to you prior, the Ottawa Senators had another Ottawa Senators week. Um, They start the week off pretty well, winning 5-3 against Philadelphia Flyers. They then beat the Montreal Canadiens 4-1. Then they lose 2-3 against Boston in OT. So 5 out of the first 6 points, pretty good week. But then they get absolutely destroyed by the Rangers 7-2. So and they were 2-0 up in that game as well. So they conceded the last 7 goals. Which is just sums up Ottawa basically. They seem to start or have a good patch, and then it quickly turns into a bad patch, and it's exactly why they are where they are this season.
Alrighty, my 29, not moving. Columbus Blue Jackets.
One spot above.
Yeah, so only the 3 games for this team. They lose to the Oilers in regulation. They beat Calgary, and then they lose to the Canucks in OT. So they face all the Canadian teams there. They come out with 3 out of the 6 points, so come out 500. But yeah, just honestly, just not seeing enough for to jump over Ottawa there. Unfortunately for them, but honestly, their season's looking pretty much done and dusted at this point, so it doesn't really matter too much.
It's the same story with Columbus. They're talented enough, and they've got the ability, but they just can't hold a lead. Again against
Mm.
Canucks, they were 4-1 up, and they lose 5-4 in OT, I think it was.
Yeah,
So
but both these teams will play like a period absolutely perfectly, and then the rest of the
yep.
game it's non-existent.
They struggle, but that's a young team, and that's what Columbus is. So I do believe they're going to be a powerhouse in the next couple of years. But they just need that youth to come through and get a bit more I guess, defensive awareness to their game and be able to play a full 60 minutes, which they're just not capable of doing at the moment. All right, on to 27. I have the Minnesota Wild.
Yep, same thing.
They stay the same spot for me. Not moving again. Look, there was a glimpse of hope for this team, but it's just quickly fading away. They start off the week really good with a 5-2 win over Carolina, 5-3 win over the Washington Capitals, but then they finish up the week with a 2-3 loss against the Nashville Predators and then a 2-3 loss against the Anaheim Ducks. And that's where it gets really sort of iffy for me. I thought, the win against Carolina is huge, pretty big. The Washington Capitals have been struggling, so good win there. But losing that game against the Ducks, they win that game and they go 6-8, and you could sort of be like, okay, maybe here we go. But it just summed up this Wild season again. They just can't get it going for long enough, and they're spending too much time at the 500 mark or below.
Mm.
Unfortunately,
Yeah, my only other concern was their win against Carolina. They only had 19 shots, but they scored 5 goals, but only the 19 shots. That is a Carolina thing to do. But that was my only other concern with them for that week. 26, Montreal Canadiens, not moving.
same here,
A lot
moved
of
down
lot
one
of
for
no,
me.
non-movement at the bottom here. So 3 games for them. They face Ottawa and lose. They face the Islanders and win, even though they were outshot by 20 shots. Then they go against Pittsburgh and lose in OT. So all things considered, go 500. This team's been pretty competitive for probably over a month now. They're kind of very consistent and being competitive, but just not always getting the results.
Yeah, but that's all you can really ask for from this young team. They've had a bit of injury, concerns as well throughout the season. Um, so all in all, I'm not too disappointed with their season so far. They're pretty much doing what I expected, but we are seeing some good hockey from some of the young players that you want to see good hockey from. So all in all, I think their season's been more of a positive than a negative, even though they are, lower down on this list. Right, 25 for me. I have the New York Islanders.
All right, that's just my 24.
One spot up. Oh, crazy. Big call there. Um, yeah, look, they start the week off with a 3-2 overtime win against the Dallas Stars. They were heavily outshot in that game, 43-28. A couple of days later, they lose 3-2 against the Vegas Golden Knights, where they heavily outshot the Golden Knights. So, make of that what you will. And then they lose 4-3 to the Montreal Canadiens. Again, heavily outshooting the Canadiens in that game. And then they come up against the Florida Panthers and lose 2-3 in overtime, getting heavily outshot. So 2 games where they heavily outshoot their opponents, and then 2 games where they get heavily outshot, and they basically go 1-3 on the week. So it's just, again, it was the same old story. I think two of their games go to OT. They can't get the win in either, or sorry, they do get the OT win in one of them, then lose the other one. Um, but every game was a 1 goal game. So even the game against Vegas and Montreal, 1 goal games. So they have the ability to stay in a game. They just can't seem to win in regulation or get the win in OT most of the time. So yeah, I don't know what to make of this team. I don't really rate them at all. I know you've got a bit of a different feeling on them, but yeah, to me, it's just,
By one
yeah, I
position.
don't know what they're missing.
Yeah, I
No,
think
no,
I think they're playing poor. I think they've got their issues. I don't think they're as poor as a lot of people say they are, but they're definitely got their issues. They definitely
mm,
had one of the harder weeks as well. 3 of the 4 teams from my power rankings last week were in the top 11, so very difficult week. Pretty much all 1 goal games, and probably should have had at least a point out of Vegas and Montreal. So yeah, I couldn't punish them too hard. They do move down too because some other teams. Team below 'em for me though, 25 Arizona Coyotes. Moving on down even further for me.
yeah, geez, they do go down. They move down for me as well, but again, I've been higher on them a little bit, so they're only 21 for me.
Yeah. They've just been a disappointing for probably over a month now for me. So they beat Pittsburgh. They lose to Florida on a back-to-back. They lose to Tampa, and then they lose to the Canes. So very difficult week, all things considered. But the losses, they concede 6 goals, and then they lose 3-1 against Carolina, but they only have 11 shots in that game. So the only saving grace for the week was the Pittsburgh win at the start, but then it was just all downhill. Granted, difficult week in regards to opponents.
Yeah, no, it is sort of slowly slipping away their sort of playoff hopes, any that they did have. But again, I've liked their season. I think it's more of a positive than a negative so far. I hope that they can at least continue to make something of their season. I think we spoke about roundabout where we think they'll finish the season, and we think they'll probably get around that 80-point mark. I hope they do, because I think it'll be a real positive step for them if they can finish off the season how they've pretty much played most this season, so relatively strong. Getting wins where they need to and be close to that 500. But yeah, they are having a bit of a slip at the moment, but that's what you come to expect from such a young side. 24 for me, I have the Buffalo Sabres.
Yeah, it's my 23.
Look, I mean, potentially, I think they're 6-4 in the last 10 or something. You potentially argue they deserve to go up above a couple of the people that we're probably about to talk about. But their week goes as followed: 2-4 loss to the Anaheim Ducks, 5-3 win against the Los Angeles Kings on a back-to-back, 5-2 win against the San Jose Sharks. So again, probably one of the reasons why they don't move up further for me is that Ducks loss. They had a chance to go 6 from 6 points wise, and they failed to do so. And that's pretty much been their season for me. They can't get the crucial wins they need at the right moment. They're still in with a hunt. They're above, well, sorry, they're just below 500. With still with plenty of time to play, and we know that they're a strong enough team that they can go on a run like they did last season. But that sort of Anaheim game sums it up for me. Like, I just don't think they come up with the points in the crucial moments in games that they should, like
Yeah.
that one. They should have been taking those points and basically sweeping the week, but they don't, and they fail to do so, and that's why
Yeah.
they are where they are.
Yeah, no, I expect them 4 out of 6 points this week, except they probably should have lost the LA game and won the Anaheim game because LA
Mm,
was on a back to back, and they played them on a back to back, but LA was not on a back to back. So I expected them to lose
mm.
that, but they didn't. So I gave them accolades for that. But yeah, the downer is the Anaheim one. On to
Yeah.
22, Calgary. Calgary Flames. Interesting team. They move up 2 for me, even though they had a negative week in regards to results. So first St. Louis lose by a goal in regulation, lose to Columbus by 3 goals, 5-2. Then they go and beat Chicago 1-0. So they move up for me. It's purely just because Islanders and Arizona slid lower. That was basically it. It's not really them moving up higher.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more. I kept them where I had them because I already had the Islanders below them, I believe. So, um, yeah, it's again same story for the Flames as what probably a couple other teams. They just can't win those crucial games at the right moment. They seem to, get a bit of traction, and then they lose, 3 of their next 5 games or something, can lose all of that momentum they gained. So disappointing, but it is what it is. All right, 22 for me. I've got another team continuing a bit of a slide, the Washington Capitals.
Yeah, 21.
Yeah, look, not a great week from them. Again, as they continue to sort of slide down the rankings. They don't move for me this week, but I should say slide down the standings. They lose to Minnesota Wild 3-5. Then Colorado Avalanche on a back-to-back, which, well, that's a tough back-to-back. 6-2, especially when Colorado aren't coming off a back-to-back, and not something you want. And I think they actually come off of a 4-day break, which is just ridiculous. And then they lose 4-5 in OT to Dallas. So they pick up the 1 point from the week. But yeah, it's sort of been a downward trend for a little bit now for the Capitals. And honestly, I probably expect it to continue to go this way for the rest of the season. I think they were outperforming themselves for quite some time. And I think it's starting to fall apart now.
Yeah, to be fair, I didn't expect. I only expected them to get 2 points this week, and that's the Minnesota Wild game. The Avs game, I knew like pretty much read off that
You
they were going to lose that
you
because of the scheduling.
you're not winning that. You're not winning
Nah,
that, right? Like
you're not winning
the
that.
Avs have a 4-day break and you are coming off a back to back.
Yeah,
Like that's just
and
stupid
it's
scheduling.
against the Avs, so you
Yeah.
you're not winning that. And then the Dallas, they have a couple of days break, but it's Dallas as well, so accolades
Mhm.
for them getting that. And they were in it on the Minnesota Wild game, so I didn't punish, couldn't promote, obviously either. On
Yep.
to 20, team moving down quite a bit, LA Kings.
Yeah, me too.
So
This is a fall from grace. This
yeah,
is 100% a fall from
yeah,
grace.
probably one of the most disappointing ones. So shootout loss to San Jose, even though they had 20 more shots. Then they go and lose to Buffalo in regulation 5-3, and then they lose to the Avs 5-1. So yeah, not too much to sing about there. They get a point from the San Jose game. They for where this team is, they should be getting 2 points there, and they probably
Mhm.
should be beating Buffalo as well. So definitely fall from grace. I think their last 10's pretty horrendous. I think they only won 2 or 3 games in the last 10, so it's
Mhm.
yeah, it's not good. And if they continue this, they could easily be they're doing a role
Well,
reversal of the Oilers and stuff.
they're in trouble at the moment. Like they're no longer in top three in the Pacific. And I think that they're only a couple of points away from being kicked out of a playoff spot. So if they continue, I think they do have games in hand, but still, you continue on this trend while some of those teams below them, in the wild card race, in the Blues, Predators, Kraken, um, Coyotes to a sense, I guess. Like you might find yourself out of a playoff spot, because I tell you right now, the Blues, Preds, and Kraken are all playing better than the Kings at the moment. So um, yeah, they better watch out, otherwise their season could unravel quick smart, especially how good they started the season off. All right. Going on to 19, I have the New Jersey Devils.
Yep.
Talking about a team whose season could come unraveling pretty quickly. Yeah, they moved down one spot for me, nothing for you, but again, not a great week for them. They get a 6-5 OT win against the Vegas Golden Knights with a good comeback. Um, they then lose 2-3 to the Carolina Hurricanes. They were 3-0 down. And then they lose 6-3 to the Tampa Bay Lightning. I think Tampa Bay scored two empty net goals, but still, um, tough week in terms of opponents, and they are injury plagued at the moment. But there's a lot of cause for concern there. I still think they've got trouble in net. Their defense, it's just the defensive structure is not there. They can't seem to get a healthy lineup, and then you throw in losing Michael McLeod to the scandal that's obviously going on as well. That just adds salt to the wounds. So yeah, the All Star break couldn't have come soon enough for this team.
Mm.
But if they don't
Yeah,
pull their finger out, they could be in trouble.
I'll say it. I'm on the Fire Lindy train. I have been for a long time for that for this team, and
You reckon those chants need to come out again and turn the
I,
season
I
around?
I just think they need a coaching change. I don't think that fans need to chant it, but I think last season was all on Brunette, and I think this season is proving that to a degree, considering how Nashville have gone as well. So on to 18. I have Pittsburgh Penguins
Yeah, same here.
not moving as well, and kind of like the same boat as New Jersey, probably underperforming a little bit from what they should be doing. They lose to Arizona at the start, then they go and shoot out lose to Florida. On a back-to-back, they beat Montreal in OT. So honestly, all things considered, they go 500, not too bad. A little disappointing the losing to Arizona there, but competitive against Florida, and then they do get the job done eventually against Montreal. So especially on being on a back-to-back, and Montreal wasn't. So which seems to be what everyone is doing. Is no one's on a back-to-back when you're on a back-to-back. But they got problems still, but they're more competitive than they were at the start of the season, which I'm liking.
Yeah, like they're playing some good hockey. But I'll put this to you, or I'll put this to the viewers. If you're Pittsburgh, come the deadline, trade deadline, if they are still sitting around this position, like a few points out of the playoffs, do you trade Gensel?
I mean,
Do you trade him out? Because his UFA, his value is through the roof at the moment.
it depends what you get. Like
If he doesn't,
they're buyers. No matter what they're buyers, as long as Crosby there, they're buyers. So it's only
and
if
I
they
get
they,
that,
they, they get player worthy return. That's
but
that's it.
if he's not re-signed already, you've got to be thinking that he's looking out the door. He's already got one foot out the door, and he'd probably be one of the most sought after UFAs next season. And he would help a contending team just stupidly.
Yeah, but that
Um,
Pittsburgh ain't taking picks. That's the thing. Well, they shouldn't be anyway.
oh, I
So yeah,
know, but
but
yeah,
but
it
that's for
worries me,
another
and that's
video
why I wanted
anyway.
to ask. That's why I
it's
wanted
it's a
to
good
ask the
good question.
viewers.
I personally think no, just because
Mm.
they're buyers, unless they get player trades, so bang for buck type of thing. Like you get defensemen, they get forwards type thing, or whatever. But yeah, let us know in the comments what you think if they should, and we'll get back to you.
All right, 17 for me. I have the Seattle Kraken.
Same thing.
And look, I mean, definitely a lot better. They do move down, they move out of both of our top 16s, but they're definitely doing a lot better than what they were probably 2 months ago. Um, but yeah, they have a little bit of a slip up week. They lose 1-3 to Toronto. They beat Chicago Blackhawks 6-2, and then they lose 3-4 in overtime to the St. Louis Blues. So they go 500. A week you'd expect. You get the win against the team you should be beating. You get a point from a team probably sitting in the same boat as you, and then you lose to a probably playoff team in Toronto. So hopefully not a bad week. But I guess the bad part about it is they do cough up the extra points to St. Louis, who is a team that they'll probably be contending for that wild card spot. But they're playing a lot better at the
Yeah.
moment. They are playing a lot better than they were, and they're getting some results. So some positive stuff coming for the Kraken. They just need to keep that momentum now. And with some of the Pacific teams, i.e. the Kings, sort of falling away, and Vegas sort of slipping a little bit, there is that opportunity for a top 3 spot now. So yeah, they've just got to turn it on at the right time.
All right. Starting the top 16 for me, team we just mentioned, St. Louis, moving 4 positions.
They're one spot up for me.
Yeah, I had them there, but I made a late change. So at 15. So they start off, they beat Calgary Flames 4-3, back to back Vancouver. They beat 4-3 in OT. And then they go and beat Seattle, as we mentioned, 4-3 in OT with only 18 shots, conceding 36 shots. And 2 games back to back, they only had 18 shots. Um, Look, they get the results. 3 results of 4 threes, 2 back-to-backs of 18 shots. It doesn't. 2 games going into OT. They move up 4. It's strong results, but I'm not fully convinced yet. So I'll have
Mm.
to see next week how they perform.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, they get the results. I think they've won 4 in a row now. Um, and it's against strongish teams. The Vancouver win's a good one, but again, yeah, the consistent lack of shots, because it's not just those 2 18 shots. Against Calgary, they only had the 26 as well. So they're not exactly firing on net a lot, but they are scoring well. They've got
Mm.
12 goals from those, what,
Yeah,
60 shots. So they're
and
shooting at a high percentage, but the question is when that slows down, um, how are they gonna fare? All right. On to 16 for me. I've got the Nashville Predators.
all right, they're my 14.
Yeah, look, I did move them down a couple. I kind of felt a bit salty about that because I have liked them this season, but they have an interesting week. They lose 1-4 against the Florida Panthers. They get the 3-2 win against the Minnesota Wild, and then they lose 1-4 to the Edmonton Oilers. So, not a great week, but Panthers and the Oilers are two of the better teams in the NHL at the moment. Yeah, they're even. I think both of them were in my top 5 last week. So tough losses there, but yeah, I think they moved down just purely because of the score lines more than anything. And I think a couple other teams just playing some better hockey at the moment, but they're still doing good stuff.
Yeah, well, I think they had the results that I would have thought they would have got this week, so it was hard to punish, but obviously couldn't promote.
Mm.
15 for me, sliding down. I got Philadelphia Flyers.
Yeah, they're my 14. I could have easily put them at 16 with their
Yeah,
performances lately.
oh, yeah, that's the one I almost switched with St. Louis. So they start off, they lose to Ottawa, they lose to Tampa, they lose to Detroit, getting shut out, and then they lose to Boston. Crazy enough, they out of 3 out of those 4 games, they had more shots than their opponent, but they don't manage to get a single point this week. Difficult week. Tampa, Detroit, and Boston all playing really good, and Ottawa is a wild card. But yeah, difficult week. Honestly, considering how they played, they probably should have got better results.
Yeah, look, I think the tough part is they're on a 5 game losing streak now, but prior to that, they were on a 5 game winning streak. Um, Something like that. It might have even been more than 5 games. But so it's tough. Like you have to move on them because yes, it's a tough schedule, but they're not getting the results. However, we have seen Philly have the ability to go, on a decent winning streak as well and turn things around. So I wouldn't jump off them just yet. However, Philly are traditionally known to have a 10 game losing streak at some point in the year. So I don't want to put the mockers on you, Philly, but this could be it. um, but yeah, they could just as easily turn it into a 5 game winning streak from here and be back in the top 10 as early as a couple of weeks' time.
All right.
All right, 13 for me. I've got the New York Rangers continuing their slide.
Yeah, same thing.
Yeah, I mean, sure. Again, we talked about the fall from grace from the Kings. It's pretty similar for the Rangers. They've just just struggled a lot as of late. They, get a decent win to start the week, 5-2 against the Anaheim Ducks, but you expect them to win that. But then 2 days later, they lose 2-3 to the San Jose Sharks in OT. Yes, they get a point, but they should be taking 2 points from that game, as the team they are. And then they lose 2-5 to Vegas and they get the 7-2 win against the Ottawa Senators. So, look, they get 5 out of possible 8 points, but again, it's just, I feel like it's more that loss against the San Jose Sharks. They've got to be winning that. Um, and I don't think they've been playing great hockey for some time now. And yeah, they're looking a bit shaky at the moment. So they're not that team that before the San Jose game, it wouldn't have even been a contest. They would have won that game 5-1, 5-0. Um, but at the moment, they're looking extremely shaky. And that number one spot in the Metro is up for grabs.
Alrighty. Number 12 for me, team we mentioned, Vegas Golden Knights.
So yeah,
And so they start off, they OT lose to New Jersey back to back. They beat the Islanders, and then they go and beat Rangers. On a back to back, they lose to Detroit, and I don't think Detroit was on a back to back either. And I don't even think the Islanders was on a back to back either. So both teams on their back to backs, they weren't on back to backs, and they lose. So well, they lose one. So honestly, they could have had a really almost perfect week, but I think the scheduling screwed them over a little bit. They are doing all right. It's just they moved down for me because other teams jumping. It's not on their performance. It's on other teams' performances.
yeah, agreed. All right, not 11 for me. I've got the Toronto Maple Leafs.
Okay, they're my 9.
Moving up on the Leafs, he loves the Matthews 40 goals on the season already.
Yeah, that's purely why.
Just how,
That's purely why.
yeah. It's got nothing to do with how the team's playing, but just how
How many
the
goals did Matthews
how the
have?
Matthews.
40. Okay, top 10.
Yeah. I'm surprised you don't have him at number one. He's on absolute fire though in that sense. 40 goals already in the season is just insane. But they start off the week with a 3-1 win against the Seattle Kraken. They get the 1-0 OT win against the Winnipeg Jets, which that's a great win in general. But the 1-0, it's the firepower of both of those teams. Like that's an impressive game. And then a few days later, they finally turn the goals on, and it's a 4-2 win against the Winnipeg Jets again. So 6 out of 6 possible points. You're playing. Well, they were my number one last week. They may not be this week, but one of the better teams in the NHL, and you get all 4 points from them. So yeah, great week. And yeah, that's pretty much all I can say there. Matthews 40 goals again. It's just insane what he's doing this season.
Hmm. Alrighty, so my number 11, I have the Tampa Bay Lightning.
I actually think they might be I thought they were my 9, but they're my 8.
So they start off the week, they lose to Detroit by 1 goal in regulation. Then they win against Philly. They beat Arizona, both games being 6-3s. And then they go and beat. Oh, sorry, it's messed my thing up. No, there it is. And New Jersey,
Uh-uh.
they beat 6-3. So look at that. All 3 games 6-3 that they win, and a very close game against Detroit, who I haven't mentioned yet. So really good week, all things considered. Definitely earned the +6.
Yeah, look, they're 8-0 in their last 10 as well. So they're turning it on at the right time.
Hmm.
All right, let's get into my top 10 anyway. I have the Dallas Stars.
Alrighty, they are my 8. Okay, cool.
Yeah. Look, it's really tough because I think from 8 to probably 11, even 12, you could include Vegas in it. You could probably make a case for any of them to be in those positions. So
Yeah,
can
it's
easily see that.
it's honestly playing favorites on how teams play. If their
Yep.
style matches yours, or it's just how their results work, etc. When you get to these like
Pretty,
really close knit teams.
pretty much. So yeah, Dallas. They start off the week with a 2-3 loss against New York Islanders. It's the only way you either win or lose against the Islanders, apparently. Um, they then win against the Detroit Red Wings 5-4. They go and get an OT win against the Anaheim Ducks 4-3, and then they beat the Washington Capitals. Yes, you guessed it, in OT 5-4. We're going to start calling them the Dallas Islanders soon. So look, they take 7 out of a possible 8 points. Really good. I guess my disappointment here is Islanders, Capitals, and the Ducks are probably 3 teams that they shouldn't be going to overtime against. And the only team that you probably would have been like, oh yeah, makes sense. They get a win in regulation against Detroit. So I don't know. It's a tough week for me to judge them because I don't think that they should. I think they should be winning those other 3 games in regulation. Yet they took all 3 of them to OT.
Yeah. Thing I will mention is that the teams that you mentioned they went to OT, they did heavily outshoot, and all games they outshot their opponents. The Detroit game was a very close game. Team we still haven't mentioned yet, but it's yeah, a difficult week because like that's why they don't move up for me is because of those OTs, but they don't couldn't I couldn't move down because of the results. Moving
Hmm.
on to 10, team we just mentioned Detroit,
Yeah, they're my 9.
and so we'll just go through their week. They start off obviously beating Tampa 2-1 as we mentioned, lose to Dallas 4-5 in that close game. They beat Philly, shutting them out with only 17 shots. And then they go and beat Vegas. So really difficult week. Getting the results. 3 out of 4 results, not too bad. All difficult opponents. Was a little bit iffy with only the 17 shots, but getting the shutout win against Philly. I guess it's just that type of season. But look, they've turned it on. They're not the team that went on that slide. I just hope they can
Hmm.
maintain it, and that's why they're just edging in my top 10.
Yeah, they're looking like they're getting back to that start of season form.
Mm.
And I think everyone wants to see that, or most people, because that was some really good hockey at the start of the season.
Yeah,
All right.
as fans, you just want to see good hockey. I don't care what team
Well,
plays it.
E exactly, right? We've got our teams that or the team that we support, but overall, I like to watch good hockey, and I don't care who that comes from, as long as it's good hockey, and that's what Detroit were playing at the beginning of the year, and they're slowly getting back to that. All right, number 7, I've got the Colorado Avalanche.
Yeah, so this is my 4. Um, I will say I
Mm,
reckon between 7 and probably even 1.
Seven and one, yeah,
I reckon this bracket you could shuffle in any order, and there's an argument
100%.
argument for it. So it's
Yeah,
really preference here.
100%. And one of the big reasons why I don't move on the Colorado Avalanche is because I had them at 7 last week, and the week that they had was a 6-2 win against Washington and a 5-1 win against Los Angeles. They win both games comfortably, but they're 2 games they should win.
Mm.
Capitals aren't overly great at the moment, and neither are the Kings. So it was hard to move them, as you said, because the other teams around them, they all had really good weeks as well. And I had Colorado at 7 last week. I can't justify moving them above those teams, but they're playing some great hockey. It's got to be said.
Mm. A few comeback games, which was worrying, but honestly, McKinnon's in another league. On to my number 7. Not moving, even though I had an amazing week. Florida Panthers. I almost had this team at 6 purely because of you don't lose a game, you get promoted basically. But so they beat
Hmm.
Nashville 4-1, beat Arizona 6-2, beat Pittsburgh in shootout, and then New York Islanders on the back to back when Islanders were not on a back to back. They go to OT and win it. Uh, the reason why I didn't make that move is just all those teams. I think last week the highest position was 13 for me. Then it was 18, and then in the 20s. So it was relatively easier week. 2 of the teams they go to OTs. That's why I didn't push them into 6. But they did get the results, which is all you need. And they're playing
And that's probably the
amazing
same.
hockey as well. That's the other thing I
They are,
mentioned.
and that was probably the same. That's the same reasoning for me as well. Like I didn't want to move them down because how do you move a team down when they go 8 points from 8 points? But I couldn't move them up because the teams they played ultimately. But all right, my 6 anyway is the Carolina Hurricanes, another team that's just I can't understate how good this top 7 is. Like they are all playing ridiculously good hockey at the moment.
Mm,
It's just crazy. And Carolina seem to be back in um
last year's form.
some last year's form. And do you know what? The first game of the week is prime example of that.
Yes,
They
that's
lose two,
exactly what I thought.
they lose 2-5 to the Minnesota Wild, conceding only 19 shots whilst having 42 shots.
Yep.
Now, if that doesn't sum up their whole last season, I don't know what does. So you can tell from that game that their defensive prowess is well and truly back. Um, they then go to beat the Boston Bruins 3-2. They beat the New Jersey Devils on a back-to-back 3-2. The New Jersey Devils were not on a back-to-back because that just seems to be the
How many
way.
times have we said that today? Oh my god.
Uh, I'm
It's
pretty sure it happens about 20 times a week at
yeah,
this point.
yeah, it's ridiculous.
It is. And then they get a 3-1 win against the Arizona Coyotes. So, all close games relatively, especially those last three. But the big thing here is that they're no longer other than the Minnesota game, but those three games that they win, two goals, and one goal. Um, so that defensive part of their game is back because I think at one point they were the highest scored against team in the league. But yeah, it looks to be that they have that defensive structure back, which was a big reason they obviously finished so high last season. So it's good to see them back.
All right. Six for me. Moving down, Winnipeg Jets. Moving down from number 2 for me last week.
Yeah,
Uh,
three for me. I just couldn't do it.
yeah, you hold on to it, buddy. But they start off the week. They lose to Boston 4-1, both having 21 shots. Then they verse Toronto twice. OT lose against Toronto in the 0-1 game. Then they lose 4-2 to Toronto. The game after that. Honestly, like I said, 1-7, all the same, any order. It's just as Carolina had almost flawless weeks in a sense, and Winnipeg kind of only got 1 point out of it all,
Hmm.
and that was the problem. Even granted, the two opponents they versed were top end teams.
Yeah, and look, one reason I don't move on them is I've had them number one for quite some time now, and I think they've been one of, if not the best team in the NHL for a little bit now. But they also in both of those games that didn't go to OT, they were 2-1 down with 4 minutes to go in both of those games. So, the 4-2 and 4-1, those four of those goals came in the last 4 minutes of each game. So, it's not like they were blown out in any of those games. They were definitely in, and playing reasonably good hockey. So, I still think they're a powerhouse. They just had a bit of an off week, and I don't want to dump them because of it. But again, if they do it again next week, they'll most likely be down to 7.
All right,
All right, number 4 for me, I have the Boston Bruins.
ready? My 3.
Yeah, it's crazy to think these guys are still where they are. Everyone just thought the season they're gonna have a shit season. Oh, they're having a good season. No, it won't last. It won't last. But here we are at almost 50 games in. They start the week off with a 4-1 win against the Jets. They lose to the Carolina Hurricanes 2-3. And then on the back to back against the Senators, which guess what? Senators weren't on a back to back, if you could guess that. They get a 3-2 overtime win, even though they were heavily outshot. And then they beat the Philadelphia Flyers 6-2. So look, they get 6 out of 8 points. The only loss comes against the Carolina Hurricanes, who, as we've just mentioned, are back in their groove and a really strong side. So, yeah, all in all, they are still playing. And I think they're, second in points percentage in the NHL. So, yeah, still just playing some absolutely unbelievable hockey.
Yeah, and probably one of the most under-talked people, and David Pastrnak as well, carrying that team as what
Hmm.
third in the league in points. And what he's got like 33 goals. So dude is playing absolutely tremendous.
Yeah.
Number 2 for me, Vancouver Canucks.
Oh, he did. He made the call. I have not, however. I have the Vancouver Canucks moving into the number ones.
Fascinating. All right, so they beat Chicago 2-0. They OT lose against St. Louis, and then they OT win against Columbus. I guess my issues with Vancouver is they're having close games against teams I thought they should be beating comfortably. It's probably been happening
Hmm.
for a couple of weeks now, so it's been my concern for a couple of weeks, and they've done it again. And Yeah, that's why they're at number 2. And obviously, my number 1's been flawless for a while now.
Yeah, and I could easily make that call to have them at number 1, but I'm waiting to see if they break the record or at least equal the record of 17 straight wins. But yeah, look, Vancouver for me have been strong for a long time. There's a reason why they're number 1 in points percentage in the NHL. And yeah, so I held obviously that team in number 2 for me back that extra week because I feel like Vancouver are still playing some seriously strong hockey.
Hmm.
Um, but yeah, if the other team keeps going, they will quickly edge the Canucks out of that number 1
Wow,
spot.
I just realized your top 3 are all Canadian.
Now, still, I'm on the Canadian bandwagon here. Look, we did a community post a few days back or whatever, asking who the most likely Canadian team to win the cup would be. Yeah, we're all on that Canadian bandwagon at the moment because Jesus, they've got some teams playing some really good hockey at the moment. Um,
All
it's
right.
it's exciting to see.
And we may as well just fill it in with.
Oh, Oilers, bloody Oilers. I mean, what do you say about it, man? Like sure, that look, they're weak. If you didn't guess it already, they're 16 straight wins, so they didn't lose a game. Um, but they get a
An
4-1 win
easier
against.
week. Let's be
It
fair.
was a very easy week, yes. But a 4-1 win against Columbus. They get a 3-0 win against the Chicago Blackhawks and a 4-1 win against the Nashville Predators. It's an easy week, but they concede 2 goals. This is a team that at the start of the season we were like, they've got no defense, they've got no goaltender, they can't, you know, stop conceding goals to save their life, and their offense just isn't powerful enough like it usually is to overcome it. Now they're putting up 4 goals and only conceding one. Like it's a complete flip at the moment of this team. Skinner's playing out of his mind. Their defense is not looking terrible like it did the first 30 games or 20 games or whatever it was. Um, yeah, it's insane to think that this Edmonton Oilers team that started the season with everyone going, it's a dumpster fire. McDavid needs to get out is now potentially going on a record breaking run and probably quickly becoming a contending favorite.
Mm. I still don't think they have it to contend, but going against McDavid and Draisaitl is, you know, comes hefty. But I still don't think they have the team for it.
Yeah.
I think there's more complete teams in the league, but they kind of remind me of a Toronto from a few years ago. Regular season warriors, and then probably not do too great in the playoffs. But hopefully they can correct that, and this is a different Edmonton. Um, probably the best player in the world, or close to, if you're on the bandwagon of other players, probably deserves a cup somewhere in his career. So yeah.
Mm.
But I guess
Yeah.
that's our
Uh,
rankings. Unless you got anything to say.
nah, I said only time will tell with McDavid, but you're not wrong on that.
All right. Yeah, so that's our rankings. Let us know in the comments below on what your rankings are and what you think of ours. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Leave all notifications on for more hockey content. But till next time, we'll catch you guys.
See you guys.